The message came on a quiet Tuesday. Captain Sam Collins was finishing his night shift at Earth Defense Fleet headquarters when the deep space relay lit up with activity. At first, he thought it was a drill. It wasn't. "Sir, we're picking up a signal." "It's not one of ours," said Officer Donna Miller, her eyes fixed on the pulsing light on her screen. Sam moved closer. "Origin." "The Cygnus arm, sir. About 30 light years out." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "It's an alien transmission." Despite 50 years of deep space exploration, humanity had yet to make first contact. There had been ruins, remnants, and radio signals, but never a direct communication. Until now. "Can we decode it?" Sam asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Donna's fingers moved quickly across her console. It's already in English, sir. They've been studying us." The main screen flickered to life. A tall, slender being appeared. Its skin was pale blue, with patterns that seemed to shift like clouds. Large eyes, 3 of them, blinked nervously at the camera. "People of Earth," the alien spoke, its voice melodic despite the obvious distress. "I am Zil Terra of the Valkyrie Confederation. We need your help." Within hours, the United Earth Council had assembled. Director Lisa Gray, a former admiral with steel-gray hair and a reputation for level-headedness, called the emergency session to order. The recording played again for the 26 representatives gathered in the circular chamber. Zil Terra explained their situation. The Valkyrie were a peaceful, spacefaring species who had explored the galaxy for thousands of years. They had recently encountered something they called the Nexus, a predatory hive-mind race that didn't seek resources or territory, but biomass. The Nexus had already consumed 3 Valkyrie colony worlds. "Why come to us?" asked Counselor Ben Ward, voicing what everyone was thinking. "We've barely left our solar system." The alien's answer was simple: "Because you know how to fight." The Valkyrie, it seemed, had evolved without predators. Their society had never known war. They had weapons, yes, but designed only to stun or disable. The concept of killing to protect themselves was as alien to them as the Nexus was to humanity. "They've reached out to every spacefaring race," Dr. Alan Wright explained to the council. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, he had been analyzing the message since it arrived. The older civilizations refuse to get involved. The younger ones don't have the technology. We're their last hope, or their last resort, Director Gray said quietly. The debate lasted through the night. Earth had only recently united after the Third World War of 2053. Their fleet was small, designed for exploration and protection of Earth's budding colonies. Could they risk everything for an alien race they'd just met? "We should send an assessment team," suggested Dr. Nickel Reeves, the Council's science advisor. "A small flotilla. Gather intelligence before committing." The vote was close, 14 to 12 in favor of sending help. 3 days later, the U.S. Horizon, Earth's newest deep space vessel, led a fleet of 5 ships toward the coordinates provided by the Valkyrie. Commander Kate Daniels stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by at FTL speeds. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" asked her first officer, Jack Pottle. Kate watched the view screen, her face reflected in the darkness of space. "I don't know, but I know what happens when good people do nothing." The journey would take 2 weeks at maximum speed. During that time, Dr. Wright and his team studied everything the Valkyrie had sent: biology, culture, technology. The more they learned, the more concerned they became. "They're herbivores," Wright told Commander Daniels during a briefing. "Their entire evolution was based on cooperation, not competition. They literally cannot comprehend why the Nexus would want to harm them." "And what about these Nexus?" Kate asked. Dr. Wright's face darkened. "From what we can tell, they're a collective organism. They don't negotiate. They don't trade. They consume." As the Earth ships approached Valkyrie space, a final transmission came through. Zil Terra appeared again, relief visible in all three eyes. "Thank you for coming," the alien said. "But I must warn you, what you are about to see may shock you. The Nexus has begun its attack on our homeworld." The screen switched to a planetary view. Massive organic-looking ships surrounded a blue-green world. The Horizon's crew watched in silence as one of the ships extended a tendril toward the planet's surface. Humanity's first interstellar war was about to begin. The U.S. Horizon dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Valkyrie system. The crew stared at the view screen in silence. The Valkyrie homeworld glowed blue-green in the distance, surrounded by the dark shapes of Nexus ships. "Scan those vessels," Commander Kate Daniels ordered. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped the arms of her chair tightly. "They're organic, Commander," replied Officer Jack Pottle. "I'm detecting life signs throughout the entire structure. It's like the ships themselves are alive." Dr. Alan Wright leaned forward. "Fascinating and horrifying." A flash of light caught their attention. A small ship was racing toward them, pursued by what looked like a Nexus scout. The Valkyrie ship was firing, but its weapons seemed to do little more than irritate its pursuer. "Weapons online," Kate ordered. "Target the Nexus ship." The human vessel fired once. The Nexus scout exploded in a spray of biological matter. "That was easy," Jack said with surprise. Dr. Wright nodded. "Their ships may be advanced, but they've never needed strong armor. They've never faced real resistance." The Valkyrie ship docked with the Horizon. Zilterra stepped onto the human vessel, taller in person than in the transmissions. Two other Valkyrie followed, their eyes wide with wonder and fear. "You destroyed it," Zilterra said. "Just like that." Kate nodded. "It's what we do when something threatens us or our allies." The Valkyrie were taken to a conference room. Maps and data flowed between the two species as they assessed the situation. The news was worse than humans had expected. 7 Valkyrie colonies had fallen. Billions were dead, or worse, absorbed into the Nexus collective. "We need to see what we're up against," said Major John Rivera, the fleet's ground forces commander. Up close. Dr. Peter Martinez, Wright's assistant, had been studying the Valkyrie biology. "Their healing abilities are remarkable," he told the officers, "but they have no fighting instinct. When threatened, they freeze or run. It's built into their evolution." "Unlike us," John said with a grim smile. The human fleet moved closer to the Valkyrie homeworld, staying hidden behind one of its moons. Scout drones were launched to gather intelligence. The images they sent back chilled even the most hardened soldiers. The Nexus ships were harvesting Valkyrie citizens. Long tendrils pulled them into the organic vessels. The lucky ones died. The others were being transformed, their bodies twisted into new forms that served the hive. "We've seen enough," Kate said, shutting off the feed. "Send everything to Earth. The Council needs to make a decision." Back on Earth, Director Lisa Gray reviewed the drone footage with growing horror. The Council was divided. Some argued that humanity should avoid a war they might not win. Others felt a moral duty to help. "If we don't stop them here, who's to say they won't come for Earth next?" Lisa asked the room. The debate might have continued for days, but fate intervened. A Nexus scout discovered the human fleet and attacked without warning. The U.S. Horizon took damage to its port side. "Return fire," Kate ordered. Despite being outgunned, the human ship's weapons tore through the Nexus vessel. Their tactics were superior, their responses quicker. During the battle, something unexpected happened. The Valkyrie watching from the bridge didn't freeze or run. They stayed, watching with fascination as humans fought to protect them. "You don't hesitate," Zilterra said to Kate after the fight. "When there is danger, you act." "It's who we are," Kate replied simply. The battle was recorded and transmitted to Earth. The Council watched as human ships outmaneuvered and outfought the technologically superior Nexus. They saw the Valkyrie's amazement. Lisa Gray called for a final vote. This time, the decision was unanimous. Earth would fight. "Deploy the fleet," she ordered. "All of it." Back on the horizon, Kate received the news with a mixture of relief and trepidation. Humanity was going to war against an alien threat. They were outnumbered and far from home, but they had something the Nexus had never encountered before: the human will to fight. "The reinforcements are coming," she told Zil-Terra. "Now we need a plan." Zil-Terra's three eyes blinked in sequence. "What do you need from us?" "Everything you know about them," John Rivera said, joining them. "Their weaknesses, their habits, and volunteers." "Volunteers?" Zil-Terra asked. "For what?" John's expression was deadly serious. "To learn how to fight back." The Earth fleet arrived 3 days later. 47 ships, the largest military force humanity had ever sent into space. Captain Sam Collins led them in the flagship U.S. Defender. "Status report," Sam said as his ship joined the horizon near the Valkyrie moon. "The Nexus have taken control of the outer planets," Commander Kate Daniels replied over the comm. "They're establishing harvesting stations. We've managed to evacuate most civilians from those areas." The captains met on the horizon to plan their strategy. Major John Rivera had spent the last 3 days working with a small group of Valkyrie volunteers. The results were mixed. "They're trying," John told the gathered officers, "but they're fighting against millions of years of evolution. They simply don't have the instinct to attack." "Then we need to play to their strengths," said Chief Engineer Olivia Bennett. She had been studying Valkyrie technology. "Their ships are faster than ours, and their sensor technology is amazing. They can detect the smallest changes in energy patterns." Dr. Alan Wright nodded in agreement. "And they're natural healers. Their medical knowledge could save many lives." Sam processed this information. "So we fight, and they support." Classic division of labor. The plan took shape. The Earth fleet would engage the Nexus directly, while Valkyrie ships would provide intelligence and rescue operations. Meanwhile, Engineer Bennett would work with Valkyrie scientists to improve Earth's weapons based on what they had learned about Nexus biology. As preparations continued, Lieutenant Ryan Clark led a small team on a stealth mission to a captured Valkyrie colony. Their goal was to gather intelligence on Nexus operations. What they found changed everything. "They're connected," Ryan reported back, his voice hushed even over the secure channel. "All of them. It's like they share a single mind. We watched them respond to threats. When one sees something, they all know it instantly." Dr. Wright's eyes widened. "A true hive mind. That's why they're so coordinated in battle." "But it could also be a weakness," Sam said. "If they think as one, they might not be prepared for multiple unrelated threats at once." The first battle came sooner than expected. A Nexus attack force approached the moon where the Earth Valkyrie fleet was hiding. 20 ships, each one larger than the largest Earth vessel. "They found us," Kate announced. "All ships, battle positions." The human fleet moved with practiced precision. Instead of facing the Nexus head-on, they split into small groups, attacking from multiple vectors. The Nexus ships seemed confused by this tactic. They would focus on one group, only to be hit from behind by another. The Valkyrie ships darted between battles, scanning for weaknesses and rescuing damaged human vessels. During the fight, Engineer Bennett made a discovery. The Nexus ships are communicating through a specific frequency. If we can disrupt it, we might be able to confuse them. The human ships adjusted their jammers. The effect was immediate. The Nexus formation broke apart, their movements becoming erratic. The Earth fleet pressed their advantage, destroying 7 enemy ships before the Nexus retreated. "We won," Zil-Terra said with wonder as the last Nexus ship fled. "I've never seen them retreat before." "We didn't win," Sam corrected. "We survived the first round. They'll be back, and they'll adapt." In the aftermath, the leaders gathered again. The battle had proven their strategy could work, but they had also lost 3 ships and many good people. "We need to take the fight to them," John suggested. "Find their command structure and hit it hard." Dr. Wright had been analyzing the battle data. I think I know how. These energy patterns suggest that not all nexus are equal. Some ships seem to be relaying commands to others. Hive nodes, Sam said. Cut off the head, and the body dies. Zil-Terra looked troubled. You talk about killing so easily. Sam's expression was grim but determined. When it's them or us, yes. When it's them or you, definitely. The Valkyrie leader was quiet for a moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, Zil-Terra said, Teach us. Not just to support you, but to fight alongside you. We have let others defend us for too long. Sam and Kate exchanged glances. This was an unexpected development. The peaceful Valkyrie wanting to learn warfare. It went against their very nature. Are you sure? Sam asked. Zil-Terra's 3 eyes met his gaze steadily. We have watched you risk your lives for us. How can we do any less? As the planning for a major offensive began, word came that the Nexus had changed tactics. They were no longer targeting just Valkyrie worlds. A human colony on the edge of charted space had gone silent. The Nexus had declared war on humanity too. News of the human colony attack changed everything. What had been a rescue mission was now a fight for survival. Captain Sam Collins called an emergency meeting of all ship commanders. New Liberty Colony had 3,000 people, Sam said, his voice tight with anger. We've received no signals from them since the Nexus arrived. The room fell silent. Commander Kate Daniels was the first to speak. This is no longer about helping the Valkyrie. This is about stopping the Nexus before they reach Earth. Operation Safeguard began the next day. Engineer Olivia Bennett had been working non-stop with Valkyrie scientists to improve Earth's defenses. We've adapted their shield technology to our ships, she explained, dark circles under her eyes from lack of sleep, and we found a way to make our weapons more effective against Nexus biology. Dr. Alan Wright had made discoveries of his own. The Nexus aren't just a hive mind. They're a single organism spread across many bodies. Kill one ship, and the others feel it. They feel pain. Good, Major John Rivera said. Pain is a teacher. Training of Valkyrie volunteers continued. They struggled with combat, but excelled at tactics and strategy games. Their 3 eyes could track multiple targets at once, making them excellent navigators and sensor operators. The combined fleet moved deeper into Valkyrie space, liberating smaller colonies. With each victory, the Valkyrie grew more confident. They began to understand that fighting didn't have to mean mindless aggression. It could be a calculated response to a threat. You fight to protect, not to destroy, Zil-Terra said to Sam one evening. This is a concept we can embrace. Lieutenant Ryan Clark's Special Forces team continued their covert missions, gathering intelligence on Nexus operations. During one mission, they captured a small Nexus drone alive. Dr. Wright studied the captive with fascination. It's trying to reconnect to the hive mind, he reported. We can use this. If we implant false information, we might be able to confuse their entire network. The plan was risky but brilliant. The Nexus drone was fed false intelligence about a weakness in the Earth fleet. When released, it returned to its hive, sharing the misinformation. 3 days later, the main Nexus fleet appeared, exactly where the humans predicted. They thought they were attacking a vulnerable supply line. Instead, they faced the full might of the Earth-Valkyrie alliance. The battle was fierce. Nexus ships swarmed like angry insects, but the Earth vessels were ready. New shield technology absorbed the biological weapons the Nexus fired. Modified lasers cut through the organic hulls with surgical precision. Valkyrie ships darted between the larger vessels, providing real-time intelligence and disrupting Nexus communications. For the first time, some Valkyrie were at weapons controls, their natural ability to track multiple targets making them excellent gunners. In the midst of the chaos, Sam noticed something strange. The Nexus are protecting that ship, he said, pointing to a larger vessel hanging back from the main battle. Every time we get close, they redirect forces to guard it. It must be important, Kate agreed. Maybe a command ship. Communications Officer Eric Johnson had been working closely with Zilterra. Together, they intercepted and decoded Nexus transmissions. "It's more than that," Eric said, looking up from his console. "Based on these signals, I think it's a Queen ship, the source of new Nexus." Sam made a quick decision. "Then that's our target. Commander Daniels, coordinate with the Valkyrie ships. Create a diversion. Major Rivera, prepare your team for boarding." John looked startled. "Boarding? That thing is alive, sir." "Exactly," Sam replied. "And we're going to kill it from the inside." As Earth ships launched a massive attack on the main Nexus fleet, the U.S. Defender slipped around the battle. Using modified stealth technology based on Valkyrie designs, they approached the Queen ship undetected. Major Rivera's team prepared in the launch bay. Among them were 3 Valkyrie volunteers who had shown exceptional aptitude for combat training. "Remember," John told his team, "we go in fast, plant the charges, and get out. No heroics." The boarding pods launched, streaking toward the massive organic ship. As they penetrated the hull, they were met with a sight none had expected. The interior of the ship was a nightmare of flesh and machinery, pulsing with life. "My God," John whispered, "we're inside a living thing." Their mission had just become much more complicated. Inside the Nexus Queen ship, Major John Rivera and his team moved carefully through pulsing corridors of living tissue. The walls seemed to breathe. Strange sounds echoed from deep within the vessel. "Stay close," John ordered, "and watch where you step." The 3 Valkyrie volunteers, Nyx, Kel, and Vona, stayed near the humans. Their 3 eyes darted in different directions, alert for danger. "The ship knows we're here," Nyx whispered. "I can sense its awareness." Private Steve Baker checked his scanner. "We need to go deeper. The central chamber should be 2 levels down." They found what looked like a transport tube, a vertical shaft lined with the same living tissue as the rest of the ship. It pulsed with a sickly light. "Do we climb down that?" asked Sergeant Linda Palmer, looking doubtful. John tested the surface with his boot. "It seems solid enough. Use the support lines and stay alert." Outside, the battle raged. The Earth fleet, now led by Commander Kate Daniels, kept the Nexus forces occupied. The Valkyrie ships moved in perfect coordination, drawing enemy fire away from the Defender. On the bridge of the U.S. horizon, Captain Sam Collins watched the tactical display. "The boarding team has penetrated the Queen ship," he announced. "All ships maintain the diversion." Communications Officer Eric Johnson worked alongside Zilterra, continuously disrupting Nexus transmissions. "The hive mind is getting agitated," Eric reported. "They know something's wrong, but they can't pinpoint what." Inside the Queen ship, John's team reached a vast chamber. In the center floated an enormous Nexus creature, twice the size of a human and connected to the ship by dozens of thick tendrils. Smaller Nexus drones moved around it like workers attending a queen bee. "That's it," John whispered. "The Queen." Dr. Wright's voice came through their comms. "Plant the quantum disruptors around the chamber. They need to form a complete circle to work properly." The team split up, each taking several of the small devices Engineer Bennett had designed. The disruptors would send a neural shock through the hive mind, temporarily paralyzing the entire Nexus network. Vona, one of the Valkyrie, moved too quickly. A drone spotted her and let out a high-pitched screech. Immediately, all the drones turned toward the intruders. "Cover fire," John shouted, opening fire with his pulse rifle. The chamber erupted into chaos. Humans and Valkyrie fought side by side against the swarming drones. Nyx, who had been the most hesitant fighter during training, now moved with surprising aggression, protecting Linda as she placed her disruptors. "Keep moving," John ordered. "Complete the circle." Steve took a hit from a drone's stinger, the biological weapon piercing his shoulder. He stumbled but kept going, placing his last disruptor before collapsing. Kel dragged him to cover while the others finished the mission. When the final disruptor was in place, John gave the order. "Everyone fall back." Vona, activate the sequence. Vona, the Valkyrie scientist who had helped modify the devices, pressed the activation code. A low hum filled the chamber as the disruptors powered up. "We have 90 seconds to get out of here," John said, helping Steve to his feet. "Move." They fought their way back to the transport tube. The Queen was now fully alert, the entire ship shuddering around them. Tendrils burst from the walls, trying to grab the intruders. "Up the tube. Now," John shouted. They climbed as fast as they could, the living tissue of the ship closing in behind them. Nix was the last one up, barely escaping as the tube sealed itself shut. 30 seconds, Vona called out, checking her timer. They raced toward the boarding pods, fighting through waves of drones. Linda took a hit to her leg, but kept moving, supported by Kel. "We're not going to make it," Steve gasped, his wound slowing them down. John keyed his comm. "Defender, we need emergency extraction. Our exit is blocked." Captain Sam's voice came back immediately. "Hang tight, Major. Help is coming." Outside, the U.S. Defender moved into position, its weapons targeting the area near the boarding team. "Fire," Sam ordered. Precision laser fire cut through the Queen ship's hull, creating a new exit point for the team. As the final seconds ticked down, John's team burst through the opening, leaping into the vacuum of space, where rescue shuttles waited with shields extended. The last shuttle was barely clear when the disruptors activated. A visible wave of energy pulsed out from the Queen ship. Throughout the battle, Nexus vessels suddenly went still, drifting without purpose or direction. For the first time in the war, the hive mind had been silenced. The quantum disruptors worked better than anyone had expected. For 6 hours, the entire Nexus fleet drifted helplessly in space. The Earth Valkyrie forces took full advantage, destroying over 40 enemy vessels and capturing 3 intact for study. But the effect wouldn't last forever. "We need to hit them again, harder this time," Captain Sam Collins told the War Council. "Dr. Wright, what have you learned from the captured ships?" Alan Wright looked tired but excited. "The Queen we found wasn't the main Queen. It was a sub-Queen, controlling only this battle group. The Nexus operate on multiple levels of control. There's a central high ship somewhere that directs everything. Can we find it?" Commander Kate Daniels asked. Dr. Wright nodded. "We believe so. The captured drones still try to send signals back to their central hive. We can trace those signals." Major John Rivera and his team were recovering in the Defender's medical bay. Private Steve Baker was healing well, thanks to Valkyrie medical techniques. Sergeant Linda Palmer's leg would take longer, but she would walk again. "Those Valkyries saved our lives in there," John told Sam when he visited. "Especially Nix. Never seen anyone change so much in combat. It's like something woke up inside him." Across the fleet, similar stories emerged. The Valkyrie who had volunteered for combat roles were showing a surprising aptitude. Their natural speed and three-eyed vision gave them advantages humans lacked. "It's not that they couldn't fight," engineer Olivia Bennett observed. "They just never had a reason to. Now they're fighting for survival, just like us." The traced signals led to a distant star system at the edge of Valkyrie space. Scout ships confirmed the presence of a massive Nexus vessel, 5 times larger than any they had encountered. "That's it," Sam said, looking at the imagery. "The Central High ship." Admiral Susan Cooper, who had arrived with the Earth reinforcements, studied the tactical display. "It's heavily defended. We can't get close with conventional tactics." Ziltara, who had become an unofficial ambassador between the two species, offered a suggestion. "What if we don't need to get close? What if we make it come to us?" The plan that formed was audacious. They would use the captured Nexus ships to broadcast a signal that the Central Hive couldn't ignore, a signal suggesting that the Valkyrie had discovered a way to sever the hive mind permanently. "It's a trap," Sam explained to the ship commanders. "We'll position our forces here, in the Valkyrie home system. When the Central Hive arrives, we hit it with everything we've got." The Earth fleet took up positions around the Valkyrie homeworld. Ships were hidden behind moons or within the rings of the system's gas giant. The Valkyrie evacuated as many civilians as possible from their planet. 3 days passed with no response. Then, without warning, the space near the planet tore open. The Nexus had developed faster-than-light travel capabilities that humans had never seen before. All ships, battle positions. Admiral Cooper ordered as the central high ship appeared. It was enormous, a nightmarish combination of organic matter and stolen technology from dozens of species. The trap was sprung. Earth and Valkyrie ships emerged from hiding, weapons blazing. But the Nexus had anticipated something. They immediately deployed hundreds of smaller vessels in a defensive screen around the high ship. They're adapting, Kate realized with horror. They're learning from us. The battle quickly turned against the Alliance. Nexus ships now mimicked human tactics, using coordinated attacks instead of relying on brute force. Several Earth vessels were lost in the first hour. In the medical bay of the Defender, Major Rivera watched the battle on a screen. His team was technically still on medical leave, but he couldn't sit idle. "Sir," he called to Sam over the comm. "The disruptors worked once. What if we could deploy a bigger version inside the central hive?" Engineer Bennett, who had been monitoring the battle from her station, jumped in. "It's possible. We could modify a shuttle with a quantum resonator, one big enough to affect the entire hive mind permanently. It would be a one-way trip," Sam warned. "The shuttle would have to reach the center of that thing." John looked at his team, who had gathered around him. Even the injured Steve and Linda nodded their agreement. The 3 Valkyrie, Nix, Kel, and Vona, stepped forward. "We volunteer," Nix said simply. Sam hesitated, then nodded. "Engineer Bennett, how quickly can you modify a shuttle?" 3 hours, she replied. "Maybe less." As the battle raged outside, a desperate plan took shape. The fate of 2 species now rested on a single mission that few expected to survive. Engineer Olivia Bennett worked frantically to modify the shuttle. The quantum resonator she built was powerful enough to affect the entire Nexus hive mind permanently. It would not just disrupt their connection, it would shatter it. "Once activated, you'll have 30 seconds to clear the blast radius," she explained to Major John Rivera and his team. "And if we can't get clear?" John asked. Olivia's eyes were solemn. "Then you save 2 species at the cost of your own lives." Outside, the battle had reached a critical point. Admiral Susan Cooper coordinated the fleet with precision, but the Nexus were adapting quickly. They now used formations copied from human tactics, making them much harder to defeat. "We need to launch now," John told Captain Sam Collins. "The longer we wait, the more ships we lose." Sam nodded. "The fleet will create an opening for you. Get to the central hive. Plant the resonator and get out if you can." The modified shuttle was small and fast. John's team boarded silently. Private Steve Baker, despite his injury, insisted on coming. Sergeant Linda Palmer would remain behind, her legs still not healed. "Take care of them," Linda told John, nodding toward the 3 Valkyrie volunteers. "They might end up taking care of us," John replied with a grim smile. The shuttle launched, racing through the chaotic battle. Earth and Valkyrie ships focused their fire, clearing a path toward the massive central hive. "This is Admiral Cooper to all ships," came the order. "Protect that shuttle at all costs." Several Earth vessels took direct hits while shielding the small craft. The U.S. Horizon, under Commander Kate Daniels, moved directly in front of a Nexus attack group, absorbing devastating damage to its port side. "We're hit," Kate shouted over the comm. "Life support failing on decks 3 through 7. "Stay with them as long as you can," Sam ordered from the Defender. "That shuttle is our only hope." John's team approached the central hive. It was even more terrifying up close, a writhing mass of organic matter and stolen technology stretching for miles. The shuttle's sensors detected an opening, possibly an intake valve for harvested biomass. "That's our way in," John said. "Nix, take us in." The Valkyrie pilot navigated the shuttle through the opening. Inside was a vast chamber where captured beings were being processed. The sight was horrific. "Stay focused," John reminded everyone. "We need to reach the central chamber." They flew deeper into the hive, following energy readings that indicated the central nervous system. Nexus drones detected them and attacked the shuttle, organic weapons leaving smoking holes in the hull. "We're losing pressure," Steve called out. "Keep going," John ordered. Finally, they'd reached what had to be the central chamber, a massive brain-like structure pulsed with energy, connected to the rest of the ship by thousands of tendrils. "There's our target," John said. "We need to get the resonator as close as possible." The shuttle was too damaged to continue. They would have to complete the mission on foot. The team donned pressure suits and prepared to exit. "Vona, you stay with the shuttle," John ordered. "If we don't make it back, try to get clear before the resonator activates." The Valkyrie scientist nodded, though all three of her eyes showed fear. John, Steve, Nix, and Kel moved through the chamber, carrying the heavy resonator between them. Nexus drones attacked from all sides, but the team fought their way forward. "Almost there," John grunted. A massive tendril swept down, knocking Steve aside. He hit the wall hard, his suit tearing. Kel rushed to help him, sealing the breach with emergency patches. "We're not going to make it," Nix said calmly. John keyed his comm. "Vona, get the shuttle out now." "That's an order." Back in the shuttle, Vona hesitated. Then she fired up the engines. As she pulled away, she saw John and Nix standing back to back, fighting the drones while Steve and Kel struggled to reach them. 20 seconds. Throughout the battle outside, every ship received the same message from Major Rivera. "Clear the blast radius. Resonator active. 10 seconds. All ships, full reverse." Admiral Cooper ordered. "Get clear of that hive ship." 5 seconds. Vona's shuttle barely cleared the hive ship when the resonator activated. A visible wave of energy pulsed outward from the central hive. The massive ship shuddered, then went still. All across the battlefield, Nexus vessels stopped moving. But this time, they didn't just drift. They began to break apart, the hive mind not just disrupted but destroyed. The war was over. In the aftermath, memorial services were held for the brave souls lost in the final mission. But as rescue teams sifted through the remains of the central hive, they found something unexpected: a damaged escape pod with 4 life signs. Major John Rivera and his team had survived.